Hey everyone, welcome to episode 3 of the Gotham Graffiti podcast. My name is Scott, this is my cousin Gunnar, and I think we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. We have a really exciting show here for you today. What we're going to do is we're going to be reviewing Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1. We just watched it last night, so we're fresh on our reviews, and I think we're going to go ahead and start with Gunnar. Let's go ahead and get your thoughts.
First of all, I just want to talk about it. I don't know how well this will pop up. We're physical media people. We discussed that last episode. Dude, go get this. Like, I'm not saying you got to get the Steelbook if you want to get the regular 4K or the Blu-ray, but like, this cover art alone is worth the addition to your collection. But yeah, so getting into it, it's a Flash movie, okay, guys? Mm-hmm. It's a Flash movie. It's got the Justice League and everybody else in it, but it's about the Flash. The movie picks up and doesn't really end without Flash continuing to jump between timelines and doing different things. It's done superb, though. It doesn't drag. It doesn't feel like you're watching it and you want it to be ending so you can go to the next timeline or anything like that. Whatever timeline you're in when you're watching Barry, you're enjoying it. You're enjoying what he's doing, how he's doing it, what he's having to figure out at the time. I really enjoyed that part. Also, if you're a huge nerd like we are, the roster in this movie is massive.
Stacked. It's
handled very well. It doesn't feel overpopulated or it doesn't feel drowned out by another character. It's more of your dialogue and scene is focused on these 4 or 5 characters, and then in the corner you're like, oh look, there's Blue Beetle. It's like that, to where it's just a little nod, tip of the cap from the animation department to show us these characters on screen without it feeling overwhelming. It is a continuation of the New 52. So for those of you that, or not, I shouldn't say the comic run, for the New 52 animated universe. So for those of you that watched Apocalypse War, which was the last movie in that slate, this movie picks up that plot. We can't tell you how or what yet. We'll have a spoiler conversation here in a few minutes, which, that being said, if you want to avoid spoilers, we'll tell you where to skip to and then where it ends. So, it's a continuation of that and the ending of Constantine and Flash having a conversation and Flash running into the Speed Force. So it picks up from that, which is super intriguing. And the last thing I would say is it visually looks great for all of the Tomorrowverse movies. I don't know if they had a bigger budget or it was just how they worked on it. It looked really good. I would think one of the things I could say visually is in this universe, there have been times where, like when they're in the dialogue and it's almost like there's too long of pauses between talking. Like it's like one character.
There's like too much dead space.
Yes, there's where this doesn't have that. They've really done their job in correcting that, and that's not as prevalent in this.
Yeah, because I remember you did have some issues with the animation and stuff like
that. Yeah, it's not as prevalent in this. And then last thing, or I just said that, but the real last thing is, it left me wanting so much more. That's what you want in a first part to a trilogy. It was done so well, left me on the edge of my seat, and I cannot wait for part 2. So let's hear what you think.
Yeah, so like he said, we're going to be doing a non-spoiler review in just a few minutes.
No, a spoiler review.
I'll cut that part. Just here, ask me again.
Ask you again?
Yeah, be like, hey, let's get your thoughts.
Okay. All right, so let's get your thoughts on the movie.
Yeah, so I really like the way that everything was wrapped up, and I also like the fact that it was very non-linear storytelling. He kind of touched on it. Mm-hmm. Flash is constantly jumping between different timelines and different Earths, and it really makes you feel for the Flash because anytime that he goes to another universe or another time or Earth or whatever it is, it's almost like he time jumps a couple of different years into the future from the last point that he jumped. So it's like he's missing out on all of that life, and it's almost like he's having to try and remember everything that's happened, and like he does eventually, and he'll get into the plot and whatever, and then he gets ripped away and goes to another one. And so it really gets you to feel for the Flash. Like you said, this is a Flash movie, and I really think that they did his character justice in this movie. And just the way that everything wraps up at the very end, we'll talk about that here in a minute. But just the way that everything, all the different storylines that happen, all the different time jumps, how it all wraps up at the very end to give you a complete story, but also, like he said, it leaves you wanting more. I had a lot of questions when the movie ended, but not necessarily like, oh man, I hated that I have all these questions now. It's like, well, we have 2 other movies coming out in the next year, so I mean, the fact that I still have questions at the end leaves me wanting to go see the second and the third part at the end of this year. So I think it was very well done, and I think we'll go ahead and go into our spoiler review here in just a second. If you want to skip it and you don't want any spoilers, go ahead and you can skip to the timestamp that I have on the bottom of the screen. And so spoiler warning before we start. So
why don't you jump into it?
Yeah. So I really like the very end was one of my favorite parts.
Him dying, or just the
like he's old.
Oh,
yeah. He's lived all of this life. He had to slow down the Earth so that the giant wave doesn't come over and destroy the Earth. And like him being there with Iris, him being there even with Amazo. Like, I didn't think I would get like
which by the way, the Iris stuff is really good.
It is very well done.
The stuff between Barry and Iris in all timelines and it's done very well.
Because they get married, but then it also jumps to them when they're really old and they've been working on it. They have to build this tower on every Earth to phase through the matter wall that's coming to destroy all of them. And I really like the way that, it almost felt like we were watching Barry and Iris like grow old together in a matter of an hour and a half.
Yes.
But it was like you said, it was very it was done non-linearly, so everything was jumping to and fro, and we got to see, their wedding, and then we got to see them when they're old, and then we got to see them when they meet. Like, it's just it was very cool.
Flash, Barry when he's old and he's got the Flash suit on.
Oh, and it's all wrinkly.
He's like, hey guys, I'm still the Flash. So, but yeah, you have any other thoughts for the spoilers?
Well, no, I mean, I just kind of.
You just a big fanboy of the ending,
I just kind of ruined the plot, but.
Well, if that's your fault. If you're still watching, that's your fault. For me, in terms of spoilers, I just kind of same thing as him. I really liked the ending. I thought it was done well. I do think the way that Flash disintegrates should have been a little bit more theatrical.
Because that was unclear. I didn't realize that he had died until we looked it up.
So he does. It's the crisis ending where he phases through and dies.
Yeah.
It should have been a little bit more theatrical to me. It felt a little not as epic as it was in the
little
comic
anticlimactic.
Book. Little anticlimactic. Other than that, though, it was done very well. I also really, really love the dynamic of the Justice League in this. This is the first time we see them all on screen. And dude, I love the part where Superman's sick and he goes, I have a friend. And they pull up to Wayne Manor.
It's just Batman's
and
house.
Flash and Green Lantern are in full get up, and Superman is as well. And Alfred opens the door and he's like, oh.
So it's for you.
And Superman's like, I have a friend who lives here. And Bruce Lee's like, oh, hey. And then, there's so much charm to this. I think there's a lot of charm to this movie. I really liked it. Monitor in it's great. The Monitor's only in it for probably, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes. But they set him up and what he's going to be very well. So I'm really excited to see what comes with the Monitor. They kind of tease you with what we're left to assume that the way that Flash was pretty much the main character of this one, Supergirl's going to be the main character of the second part.
Right.
We've seen teasers with the second part having Batman Beyond in it and stuff. So
which I'm excited for. That.
Yeah, just it was great. Also, going into this, don't go into this movie expecting some just absolute climax of a story. That's not what this is. It's setting that up. So go into that so you can enjoy it for what it is. And then lastly, I would say, honestly, truly, probably my favorite part of the movie other than the ending was the crime syndicate stuff. The Flash, when he's, going through different timelines and he ends up on the crime syndicate's planet. And it's done really well. Every one of the crime syndicate's really cool in it. And you have this really cool kind of final last stand out of ego at first, but then it becomes, they're like, you know what, this planet may suck, but it's our planet. And it's very cool. And honestly, that's probably my favorite part of the movie, other than the ending. And so now we'll go ahead and give our ratings. So what's your rating for it?
So I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. The only reason why it's not a little higher is just because, like you said, I haven't read Crisis. So there were some parts where I was very confused. Like I said earlier, it does wrap it up very well. But there were definitely parts in the story where I'm just trying to figure out, like, okay, like, how is this supposed to work? Because, like, especially with the stuff with the Mazo, I'm kind of like, okay, why are we fighting a Mazo when there's a crisis on Infinite? Or, like, what are we doing here? How is this going to, like, wrap up and, like, get to the point?
Yeah.
But still, very well done movie. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. How about you?
So for me, for context, part of my rating is coming from what I feel like I'm going to feel when I watch it a second time. This is one of those movies I feel like for everyone, once you watch it a second time, you're like, damn, that's a lot better than I remember. So for me, I've got it at an 8.2 for all the reasons I listed beforehand. But yeah, I think it's a solid B grade, low B grade movie. Definitely think it's worth a spot in your collection, and I definitely think it's worth the watch. So yeah, and so next we're going to go into a new segment we're calling Read of the Week, which Scotty or I will be doing a read of that week that we either read, whether it's a trade, an omni, a single issue, that we feel that it's worth your time to read and pick up. Most of the time it's probably going to be me. I'm definitely the reader of the two of us, but he does read every once in a while and have a book he truly loves. So we'll just alternate. So yeah, we're going to go right into that. Okay, so for our first recommended read of the week, we're going to go with The Flash Volume 1 by Jeff Johns. So I got this for Christmas last month, and I have just pushed through it. This is Wally West. This is not Barry Allen. I've always been more of a Wally West guy as is, so obviously I was inclined to this. Aside from how good people say it is, I had to read it for myself. And it's amazing. I have the three biggest compliments I have for this omnibus are, number one, the filler issues. Like, whenever you're reading a really thick trade or an omnibus, there's just issues in it where you're like, oh, just like, can we get through this? And I would say with this, those issues are actually very intriguing. And to the point where when they end and you pick up in the next issue, you don't even realize that was like a throwaway. You're like, oh, that was a throwaway. Okay, we're picking back up on the main thing here. The second thing I would say, this is a love letter to Flash's Rogues Gallery. This is a love letter to his Rogues Gallery. I mean, you're reading everybody from Captain Cold, Mirror Master, Abracadabra, Gorilla Grodd, The Warden at Iron Heights. You're reading about, who am I leaving out? Magenta, Captain Boomerang. I mean, just every one of them, they're done so well. There's a specific issue in this with Captain Cold. Everyone's seen the picture and the cover of Captain Cold. It looks like New 52 art, but it's not. It's like pre-New 50. You know what I'm talking about? Where it's this cover and he's holding the two guns, and it's like the white ice background.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's seen it. That's in this, and it's an issue just dedicated to showing you how and why Lenny Snart became Captain Cold. And it's just makes you fall in love with him as a villain, and you're like, oh, well, yeah, I get it. Like, I get why he's doing what he's doing.
Because I do remember whenever, because we were talking about this maybe a week or so ago.
Yeah.
And I do remember you were telling me, like, one of the things that you really liked is it shows because, you know, with Batman, you know, like, all of his villains, like, they're going like this all the time. But, like, with the Flash, he has, like, a little bit of a different relationship with the villains. His Rogues Gallery.
Yes, it's not... Like, just for example, no spoilers, in one of the issues, Mirror Master, Captain Cold, and the Flash have to team up to do something. Once they're done and they've completed what they're doing, Mirror Master and Captain Cold are like, hey, we'll see you later kind of thing. And Wally's like, well, what makes you think I'm letting you go? And Captain Cold's like, come on, kid, nice try, we'll see you later. And they, like, Mirror Master teleports them away, and Flash just kind of smirks. It's cool to see, like, that Flash understands the human element of his Rogues Gallery, and you really do see that in this book. Also, the stuff with Wally and Linda in this is so good. So good. It makes you fall in love with her as a character and a supporting role to Wally. You get other great supporting characters like Officer, I can't pronounce his name. It's either Shire or Chire. You get Jay Garrick's wife. You get Superman in this. There's a lot of good tie-ins, and it's not always just Wally, but it's done very well. I'm fixing to start the second volume here soon, but yes, this I am giving a 9.4. 9.4 on this bad boy right here. So go pick it up. It's not super expensive for Omnis in general. I think this thing on eBay and Amazon right now is like $55, $60, which is not bad for an omnibus of this caliber. So yeah, so we'll just show you. Here's the front, the spine, which such a cool spine for your shelf, such a cool spine. The back, and then if you lift the slip, the front, the side.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, very cool. So that is our first recommended read of the week.
All right, now we're going to go into another new segment that we're going to be starting. This won't be weekly. We'll do this every now and then, but it's going to be called our Versus segment, where we picked 3 matchups from where was the list
CBM.
from? CBM. So we picked 3 matchups from a list that CBN had of characters versus characters, Marvel versus DC matchups, and we're going to say who we think we would win, and let's go ahead and get into it. So our first one is Aquaman versus Black Panther. Who do you got?
Aquaman. So I know the Black Panther hype train's at an all-time high. He's a household name now, which I think is great. Black Panther's a super cool character.
Yeah.
But he's not touching Aquaman with a 10-foot pole. I know that obviously Aquaman's a joke to a lot of people as a character, but for those of us that are educated in the character of Aquaman, bro, he's the king of the 7 seas. Like,
he's not the Submariner.
In terms of hand-to-hand combat, they would probably be pretty evenly matched.
Yeah.
But number one, Aquaman's trident absorbs kinetic energy the same way that Black Panther's suit does.
Yeah. So like his punches. I pick Aquaman too, by the way. But whenever he has that like explosion of kinetic energy, so like he would absorb it and then just like
it would be a stalemate. So at that point, it would come down to either exhaustion, which obviously Aquaman's winning that, just because he's not fully human, or who I guess can knock the other out first, which I've got my money on Aquaman being the metahuman.
Yeah.
Also, just in terms of
would his trident pierce his suit? Because I know it's vibranium, but like his trident is made from like the gods of the sea.
If you're going by the logic of Marvel, no. If you're going by the logic of the Atlantean lore in DC, then yes. So that's kind of
depends on like who
depends which lore you're taking.
Okay.
I would also say if they're anywhere near water, I mean, it's not. Like, I mean a lake. Yeah. Like they could be near a lake, and if he's near it, it's done.
Well, because Aquaman can make he can make them grow, right? Like he can make them bigger.
Yes,
so, I mean he can take like a horseshoe crab and make him like a 10-foot monster.
Huge. Yeah. So Black Panther's super cool. Love Black Panther. Really enjoyed his first movie. Think he's a cool character, but he's just unfortunately not hanging with Aquaman.
Yeah. So second matchup, we have Captain America versus Green Lantern. So
different one there.
Yeah, I actually picked Green Lantern.
Okay.
I just feel like as much as I love Captain America, like I'm not saying I don't like Captain America, because I do, but I feel like even though you have Captain America, he's got a very strategic mind. He's a super soldier. All of those. It's just like it's really hard to compete with a space cop who can make anything that his mind can come up with. And like if you get you could maybe make the argument for Captain America if you get like just in a like straight up brawl between like if you're picking Hal versus Steve Rogers, then yes, I could see Captain America winning. But if we're going with like he's got the shield, he's got the ring, even if it's Jon Stewart, like I don't see how Captain America can hang with that.
Okay, so if I were putting my savings account on this, I would pick Green Lantern as well, but I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I'm going to say Captain America. for one reason only.
Okay.
Green Lantern's ring is powered by willpower.
Okay.
Who in comic books has more willpower than Captain America?
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
I mean, in terms of just sheer, I will not die, just attitude. You say Captain America, Batman, and Superman probably. Like those three embody that. Batman's isn't as passionate. It's more of just I won't give up. Like you're not.
Yeah.
It's almost more of an ego thing with Batman. Like you're not beating me. Like I refuse to let that happen.
Right.
But Captain America and Superman both have that. So where I think this is the way I'd see that playing out. If Green Lantern can incapacitate him quickly, that would be to me that's the way he'd have to do it. He'd have to do it fast because if Cap can outlast him and start kind of irritating Hal or John or whoever it is, and then he just outwills them, I could see Cap winning. So that one kind of goes either way. He picked Lantern. Like I said, if my bank account was on it, I'd pick Lantern too, because at the end of the day, when Hal is like nth level, when he's Hal Jordan Green Lantern, there's not a whole lot of people that can go toe-to-toe with him.
Or like if you have Jon Stewart.
Yeah, because then the other thing you run into with Jon Stewart is Jon Stewart's an ex-Marine.
Yeah,
so if it comes
like,
down to throwing hands, like, he can scrap with Steve.
Yeah.
But yeah, play devil's advocate. I pick Cap for those reasons. But in all reality, if it really came down to brass tacks, at both peak, I'd probably pick Green Lantern. But for the conversation, I'll pick Cap. So next we've got one out of left field, Hulk versus Atrocitus. For those of you that don't know, Atrocitus is one of the Red Lanterns. He's probably the most popular Red Lantern. He's basically, a way to think of him is if the Red Lanterns had a Bane. That's kind of the way to think of Atrocitus. So who do you got?
I'm going to stick with theme here. I have Atrocitus versus going versus the Hulk. I think, one of the reasons why is because Hulk, like if we're just going based off of like, Hulk when he turns into a monster and he doesn't really have a whole lot going on in his brain. Yeah. I think that Atrocitus has that strategic mind, kind of like Bane does, and I think that he can kind of because Atrocitus is such a massive individual, I think he might be able to hold his own with Hulk. Yeah. And I think he might be able to outsmart the Hulk. And even like he might be able to use Hulk's rage against him because we've seen
he feeds off it.
He feeds off of it. So if he can antagonize the Hulk and get the Hulk to get madder and more angry, then he can fuel that, and then Hulk's done after that. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's very good reasoning. For me, I've got being honest with y'all guys, I'm copping out. I'm giving this a draw, only because of this. They both, in theory, can win. So keep in mind, Red Lanterns, Green Lanterns, Yellow Lanterns, Blue Lanterns, Purple. They're not indestructible in terms of body.
Right.
So they have this universal power, but if you rip their arm off, you rip their arm off. Like they're not indestructible. So if Hulk got a hold of Atrocitus, that would be it. It would be very, very quickly finished. However, if Atrocitus could create distance, which that's the other thing you got to worry about is with as fast as the Hulk is, I don't know how easily you create distance, but if Atrocitus can create distance and, like you were saying, feed off the rage of the Hulk, it would almost become at that point it becomes who's just going to last the longest, because if Hulk is being fueled by his own rage, but then it's also being fed off of by Atrocitus, then it's just going to come down to who's going to last the longest.
Who's going to be angrier longer.
But to be true to our show, I will give an answer. I won't do the draw. I'm picking Hulk. I'm picking Hulk only because Atrocitus has to feed off of Hulk's rage, so it's not coming from him. Hulk's feeding off it from the source.
Yeah.
It's him. Also, because same thing in terms of, I don't know what Atrocitus could do to beat the Hulk in terms of he can't create a sword to go through him. The Hulk will. There's that line in the first Avengers where Bruce Banner says he shot himself in the mouth, and as he's dying, the gamma took over and he became the Hulk and he spit the bullet out.
Yeah.
Like, there's just not a lot you can do to harm the Hulk. So I'm picking the Hulk, but I could very easily see Atrocitus, like you said, outsmart him and kind of, figure a way to win as well. So, all right, guys. Well, that was episode 3. We hope you liked it. Gave you a little bit something different today. We're going to be trying to keep things fresh with new series and new things to talk about every week. So please hit that subscribe button. Please hit the bell notification so you know when new episodes are dropping. Also, feel free to check out our Instagram and TikToks with the same handle, Gotham Graffiti Podcast. Thank y'all so much and have a good one.